Hello, my name is Rabbi Avi Leibovic, and I'd like to welcome you all to the lecture today. It's a pleasure to be here today in front of everyone speaking. And the topic tonight is why marry Jewish? Or as William Shakespeare would say, to marry Jewish or not marry Jewish? That is the question. Before I begin, I would like to thank the Noach Heights organization for setting up this class and this lecture and for arranging for the class to be recorded online so it can be viewed by people all over the world. It's a tremendous time in the history of the world that we live in where lectures can be broadcasted over and over and over again on the internet for people to view all over the world, and that my voice can echo so far away to so many different people is really mind-blowing. It's really something amazing. I also want to extend my blessings to the visionary and the founder of the organization, Rabbi Avraham Shalom, who I want to give him a blessing that he should have continued strength and clarity and to be able to go and to take this program even farther than it's already gone so that it can continue inspiring Jews from all over the world. Before I speak, whenever I lecture, I like to go ahead and take about 3 minutes to tell the listener who I am, where I come from, what my background is, so that way there's a little bit of a rapport between us. It's very hard. I remember when I was growing up in school and they would bring a guest speaker in and they would tell you to sit in the class and say, "Oh, we have a guest speaker over here." And I would say, "Who is this?" And the guy would just go right into the topic. I had no connection. I wasn't bonded with the guy. I had no background, no basis to understand who he was. So to have a little bit of understanding of who I am, not that I'm anyone special, but just to know a little bit about me, I think it's important. So what I want to tell everyone is, first off, I was born in New York. And I moved to Los Angeles when I was about 3 years old. So I'm pretty much a Californian, a Los Angeles raised young man. I'm a full-time attorney. That makes my living as an attorney, and I help people in the health care industry, in the health law industry, primarily helping people who are disabled to apply for Social Security disability benefits. I'm married, and I've been blessed with 7 beautiful children. I have 4 girls and 3 boys. So between working as an attorney and dealing with my family, you would think I have my hands full already. But on top of all of that, I actually have been teaching classes since about 1998. I've been teaching classes to students, both in small groups and in large settings. I've been teaching classes to adults on college campuses, a lot of different classes I've been giving to so many different people. On the weekends, and actually every day, I go ahead and I'm the rabbi and the spiritual leader of congregation based in Naftali, which we're at right now, and I'm happy that the temple, that the synagogue can host this lecture over here. And in addition, over the last couple of years, I founded 2 non-for-profit organizations. One non-for-profit is called Eish Tamid of Los Angeles, which was an organization that was set up to help teens and young adults find themselves, to help those students who have maybe got lost along the way in high school or right before college or as they're entering their adult years, to help them find a job, to help them connect with their families, to help them if there's issues with drugs and alcohol, to help with just providing some inspiration, religious inspiration, to give them a sense of self and a sense of hope. And the last organization that I founded was an organization that's called Tzarchei Tzibur, which translates into Community Essentials, which is a large safety net in the city to help people who need some help with healthcare insurance, who need help putting food on the table, who need help with their housing. So I've been pretty busy. The long and short of it is I've spent the last 14 years, humbly, giving thousands of hours of one-on-one life coaching, on giving hundreds of hours of classes, and it's a privilege for me to be able to come and speak a little bit to you tonight. So now that you know me, we can dig right into the topic. And the topic, like I said, is to marry Jewish or not to marry Jewish. That is the question. So I want to tell you something. The date today is January 29th, 2013. And I decided to go away for New Year's weekend with my wife to take a couple days away. It's important when you're married to go ahead and go away with your spouse for a few days, to get away from the kids and to spend some alone time. So we went to a beautiful hotel called the Four Seasons in Westlake. Beautiful, beautiful area here in California. And we had a beautiful room and everything was terrific. And by day 2, the view, which had looked out onto like a waterfall into a beautiful garden, my wife said to me, come to the window, come check it out. I said, what's going on? She says, look, they set up a wedding over there. They set up a wedding beneath over here, and I think we're going to get lucky enough while we're here as the hotel guests to see a wedding. And I see something even more amazing. She says, I see a canopy, or in Hebrew they call it a chuppah. I see a canopy over there with a Star of David, a Magen David on the canopy over there. What a coincidence that we should be staying here and we should be relaxing, and we spend the day in the spa and we spend the day reading and together, and then we get to celebrate, to watch as guests, to watch this wedding unfold. But then as the guests started coming, we realized, I don't want to say an amazing thing, a sad thing, maybe it's a reflection of the reality of the times. We realized that while there was a chuppah, a canopy set up with a Star of David on it, we realized that only one half of the family was Jewish. Only the bride's side of the family was Jewish. And it became apparent, and we actually asked someone while we were there, that the groom's side of the family was not Jewish at all. So as I sat there and I watched all of these people celebrating, and the bringing together of two souls, the bringing together of two different, pieces, a man and a woman, bringing them together to bring a life of harmony, there was a part of me that was a little bit, taken back and a little bit sad. And I had so many questions that were going through my mind. Why was I sad? I mean, after all, we live in a society today that's multicultural. We live in a society where we're working side by side in the workforce with Jews from all different nations of the world, not Jews and non-Jews from all different nations of the world. Is it really such a tragedy if a man and woman falls in love with each other and they're not the same religion? I started thinking to myself, if they get along and, they're in love, so does it really make a difference? Does it make a difference if he's not Jewish? I mean, maybe maybe they get along better than if they were Jewish, both of them were Jewish together. They found true love. Who am I, and whatever beliefs I have, who am I to say that this, that it should make a difference? I asked myself, well, why didn't he convert if he loved her? I'm just sitting there and this is what's going in my head. Why didn't he convert? Maybe he should have converted. Wouldn't someone who loved another person convert, in order to have the same religion? And I started asking myself these questions, and the reality, I think, a little bit is that when it comes to marriage, right, it's a turning point in your life. It's a turning point in your life when you really have to sit and you have to decide, how much does my Judaism, my religion, how much, if anything, does it mean to me? Many of us grew up in America. I don't know who's listening to this, or maybe some of us grew up in Israel, or they grew up in Russia, depending on who's listening, whatever it is. And you didn't really have such a home where all the traditions were kept and all the commandments were kept. And you didn't receive an education where you were told about the beauty of Judaism, and you were told about the significance and how special it is to do all these things. And you weren't really told about how special you are as a Jew. Should you be blamed if you go ahead and you marry someone, you fall in love with someone who's not Jewish? Why should it really make a difference? I mean, is being Jewish simply a matter of birth? Okay, I happen to have been born into the right family. Or is it really a difference between a Jew and a non-Jew? So we need to go ahead and we need to discuss these things. Now, before I go forward on this lecture, I have to make two assumptions. Again, I'm speaking to people, or people listening to me. I have no idea who you are. I have no idea as to your background or your education. But I want to say that moving forward in this lecture, I'm moving forward with two assumptions. The first assumption, let me list them both and I'm going to explain them. The first assumption is that you believe that there is a God in this world. That's the first assumption. And the second assumption is you believe that you have a soul inside of you. That's all I'm asking for, that you believe that there's a God in this world who created the heavens and the earth, and that you have a soul inside of you. I'm not asking you what your relationship is with God. I'm not asking if you pray to Him 3 times a day or 3 times a year or every 3 years. I'm not asking you what your status is with your soul, if it's a pure soul, if it's an impure soul, if you're partying, if you're not partying. I'm not asking what the status is of your relationship on either of those 2 points. But I'm assuming that what? That you believe that there's a God, and that you believe, at least at the minimum, you feel inside of you to some degree that you have a soul. If you do not believe that there's a God, and if you do not believe that there's anything inside you that's remotely considered a soul, but rather just a heartbeat and then you die and then you go in the ground, then I would encourage you to to stop the lecture at this moment, to go onto the website, and to look at some of the other videos that are there and some of the other lectures over there, so that you can kind of reinforce and strengthen in yourself these first two assumptions. That there is a God in the world, that there's one God in the world who created heaven and earth, and that there is a soul. I believe that these other lectures are online. Alternatively, I believe that you take some time to read some books and familiarize yourself with these two topics. But moving forward, for the purpose of this lecture, I'm assuming that everyone who's listening now from this point forward understands that there's a God in this world, irrespective of what your relationship is with God, and that you have a soul inside of you, irrespective again of your connectivity or your stickiness or your strength of your soul. Okay, so now that we have that, we're agreed. It's an arrangement. Good, let's move forward. So I want to tell you something. If a person goes ahead and they open up the Bible, right? We said that there's a God, so we're going to assume that again that that a Bible was given through God. And a person goes ahead and he looks. Everyone should know to some extent the story of the Jews. The Jews were enslaved in Egypt, and through 10 miraculous plagues, the Jews were freed, and they crossed through the splitting of the sea, and the Egyptian army was drowned in the sea, and the Jews made their way for a 3-day travel over to the mountain of Sinai, and they received the entire Torah, the 10 commandments, as well as the rest of the 613 mitzvot, which were encompassed in part of that. And a little bit after they received the Torah, they began the long march towards where? Towards Israel, because that's where they were headed. They were headed towards Israel. But they needed a place to connect, to pray, to feel attached with God. They were in the middle of the desert. So if you look in the Bible, there's a verse over there, and the verse, I'm going to say it in Hebrew, and then I'm going to translate it in English. It says, Asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'soicham. Make for me a mikdash, a sanctuary, v'shachanti, and my shechina, my presence, will dwell besoicham, in it. But it really doesn't say besocham in it. It says besocham in them. So I don't want to bog everyone down on grammar. But there's an interesting question. What exactly was the commandment from God? And what exactly is the language over there? Let's review that again. Build for me a sanctuary, which was the traveling tabernacle, which many of you have heard about, which traveled in the desert for the 40 years, where they brought the sacrifices, they did everything else. Build for me one tabernacle. Asuli mikdash, build for me one. V'shachanti b'soicham, and I'll dwell, not in it, b'soicham, in them. So what does it mean, the Shekhinah, the presence of God, will dwell in it? Well, for the purposes of the desert, it meant that if you build for me this sanctuary, this traveling tabernacle, my presence is going to come down and it's going to dwell in that location. But it doesn't say in it, it says in them. So what does it mean, I'll dwell in them? So our great sages, our rabbis have taught, they taught us an amazing thing. They said when it says betzacham, in them, it means that any time moving forward in history, if an atmosphere is created to replicate a sanctuary, to replicate a place of holiness, then the God's presence, the Shekhinah, God's presence, will dwell in that place. That means, for instance, I'm standing in a temple right now in a synagogue. Because this is quote-unquote a mikdash, a sanctuary, a temple, a synagogue, God's presence, so to speak, is coming down from up above. It's coming down and is dwelling in this room over here. Because the environment has created such a thing as a sanctuary. If I go into a school which teaches Torah, which teaches Jewish classes, because the environment is quote-unquote a holy environment, and because the environment is teaching Torah, the Shekhinah, again, the dwelling, the presence of God is coming down, and it's creating it, it's dwelling in that school. If I go to a study hall, the same thing. Because it's a holy place, the Shekhinah, the presence, is coming down, and it's dwelling in that place. But the last place that the presence can dwell of God is in a home, in a Jewish home. Asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'soicham, build for me a sanctuary and I'll dwell in them, means that if your home is like a sanctuary, if your home is a place where there's mutual respect between the husband and the wife, if your home is a place where the proper words come out of a person's mouth in a respectful way, if your home is a place where it's a sanctuary, where you're inviting guests in, where you're hosting lectures, where you're hosting classes, where there's a common goal between the husband and the wife as to how they're going to raise their children, where there's a common goal between the husband and the wife on their beliefs and on their direction and their goals as a family, If that is occurring and your home is a sanctuary, then what? God's presence is going to come down and is going to dwell over there. So why do I start this lecture of marrying Jewish or not to marrying Jewish with this concept of, is my home a sanctuary? Is my home not a sanctuary? I thought we were talking about marrying Jews or not marrying Jews, or why it's important that I have to marry a Jew. What are you sidetracking me for and bringing me all the way to talking about making your home a sanctuary? Because I believe, and this is just my opinion, but I believe with all of my heart and with all of my soul that there's a lot of great things in this world. Money is a great thing. Everyone loves money. Who doesn't love money? Happiness is also a great thing. Who doesn't want to be happy? There's so many great things in this world that we all want, that we all desire. But more so than anything in this world, I think, what people really are searching for and what gives them meaning to life every day, because besides for just going to work and besides for just doing whatever it is that you do, what really gives you meaning to life is having that connection, that spiritual connection with God and with your soul. Because if you have a spiritual connection with God and with your soul, and you're able to bring down from high up there in the heavens and the clouds, you're able to bring God down, and you're able to bring Him into your home, into your living room, into your kitchen, into your bedroom, into your den, and you're able to have God in your home every day, then you know what? Whether you have money, it doesn't make a difference. Whether you have other things in your life that you need, it doesn't make a difference. You have everything that you want in your life. You have that internal harmony, that internal sense of I feel connected with God, and I have the privilege of having His presence dwelling in my home. So I want to start with that, because as we move forward now, and as we start talking about, do I marry Jewish or do I not marry Jewish? Who is my spouse going to be? We have to understand that the big picture of life, the big picture of our spiritual journey in this world, is not just about, oh, I see someone, I'm attracted to him or her, we get along great, let's get married. But there's more to this union called marriage. There's this idea of sharing common goals. There's this idea of being able to talk deeply to one another. There's this idea of working towards a certain mission, let's say a mission statement for your home. And if you and your wife agree that the mission statement for our home is that, you know what, we want to fulfill this verse that says we're going to make our home a sanctuary, and because we're going to make it a sanctuary, God is going to come down into our home, then you have a whole direction, you have a roadmap of where you want your marriage to go. You go to AAA and you say, I live in California. I want to drive to the Grand Canyon. So AAA, they take out a map, right? I've been there before, and they take a highlighted pen, and they take from Los Angeles to this freeway, to that freeway, this way, Grand Canyon. That's the way to do it. That's the way to go. And I have a path and I can do it. If you have a MapQuest in your car, or you have a navigation GPS and you need to get to a location, you punch in the address, you punch in the direction, boom, you go exactly, you know where you want to go. If you're getting married and you're transitioning a major part of your life, probably the biggest part of your life, from an individual, okay, here I am alone, to I'm combining with a life partner. I need to have a roadmap of how do I want my house to look? How do I want my life to look? What is the direction that I want it to go? Do me and my spouse, do we have a common goal? Is that common goal to bring godliness in this world? Maybe it's not, I don't know. But for purposes of this conversation, I want to start with saying is that everyone should have a common goal of where they want their house, the direction, their mission statement, that everything should be aligned, that you have a certain destination. The second thing I want to say, okay, is that there was a famous movie a long time ago. It was called Jerry Maguire. Everyone knows Jerry Maguire. Show me the money, right? Everyone knows the lines from Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise. And what happened in Jerry Maguire? Besides for the show me the money, there's another famous scene over there between Tom Cruise and the female actress star who's over there. All my papers are falling down over here. The female actress star, I forget what her name is. They were in love so much, and then they got in an argument and they broke up. And then she walked into the house at one point, or they saw each other at one point, and he tried to make up with her, and she said to him something along the lines of, like, you don't need to talk. She goes, you had me at hello. That's what she says. I was in love with you the minute you said hello. And then she said to him something, you complete me. You complete me. Now, I know we're referencing a movie over here for something a very big idea that I'm about to introduce, but I do think that that's a good segue into the next major idea for picking a spouse, is that your spouse must complete you. And that means that really complete, the word in Hebrew for peace is shalom. And the word in Hebrew for home is bayit, is bayis. There's a phrase that's called shalom bayis, peace in the home. So when you want to ask someone, do you have a good marriage, as your host a home where there's peacefulness over there, you would say, do you have good shalom bayit? Do you have a good shalom bayit? Do you have a good peacefulness in your home? But the word shalom, like when you see someone on the street, shalom, shalom, hello, goodbye, shalom, shalom. Shalom comes from a root of another word. The word shalom, peace, comes from the root of shalem, which is what? Which is full, which is complete. In order to have true peacefulness, shalom, you need to have shalem or shlemut. You need to be complete. So in Jerry Maguire, when the girl says to Tom Cruise, to Jerry Maguire, whatever it is, you complete me, what she's really saying is, without you in my life, I am not complete. I'm a half. I'm a half of what my potentials, I'm a half of what I should be. Now in Judaism, in traditional Judaism, there's a concept called a bashert. A bashert is described really as, the best way to say it is it's defined as destiny. This is basheret, this is my destiny. And when you say I'm looking for my basheret, you're saying I'm looking for my destined partner. I'm looking for the person who completes me. I'm looking for the person who's going to help me able to reach my full potential. Because you have to understand, just like two 50-cent coins come together, they make a whole, right, a dollar, that really you and your spouse, according to Jewish tradition, are each two halves of a whole. If you imagine, I remember when I was growing up, there was Swatch watches where we're all plastic and you can open up the back of the watch and you could see how a watch turns. And you had all the gears, and the gears would turn like this, each one into the other, each one completing and going right into the other one. You have to understand that a basheret, your destined soulmate, let's use the word soulmate, has to complete you. All of your weaknesses should be all of her strengths. Or if it's a guy, all of his weaknesses should be all of her strengths. Right? Or vice versa. And all of her strengths should be all of your weaknesses. The two of you need to complement each other. That is what a soulmate is. And really the reality is, and this is, I want to slow it down for a minute because I want everyone to understand this. According to Jewish tradition, without your soulmate, without your basheret, it is impossible for you to reach your full potential. Let me say that again. Without your true soulmate, it is impossible for you to reach your full potential. Let's give an example. Let's pretend someone has a Ferrari. All right, it's a good car, Ferrari, right? And you take that Ferrari and you put it on the Autobahn highway where there's no speed limit. Now, if someone went ahead and they drove that car 35 miles an hour, right? Maybe they took it to 45 miles an hour. You would look at them and you would say, hello, what are you doing? You're in a Ferrari. Do you know what machine this is capable of? No one drives a Ferrari 35 miles an hour, especially not on the Autobahn. You're going and you're taking it all power. You're letting it all out to the top gears. You're taking the turns. There's no piece of machinery, automotive machinery, that's so fine like that. Who in their right mind would drive a Ferrari 30 miles an hour on the Autobahn? Take it to the fullest potential. I want to tell you, without your soulmate, each and every one of us, and each and every one of you that are listening, you are like a Ferrari that is only driving 35 miles an hour. Why? Because as good as you think you are, as talented as you think you are, as skilled as you think you are, you're really only half of who your whole essence is supposed to be. You're really only, the maximum you could be is 100% of 50%. Why? Because the other 50% is your soulmate, is your basheret. Your spouse, your soulmate, the person you're going to spend your life with, your life partner, is the person who's going to raise you up, who's going to help you reach your fullest potential. Now this is very important because again, if you're going to go ahead and you're going to say to marry Jewish or not to marry Jewish. That's the question. And I'm already in a relationship with someone who I've been in it for several years for, and I'm deep in love. And this, I think, is the one for me. So you have to stop for a second, and you have to say, well, we agreed in the beginning that I believe that there's a God in this world. And then we agreed that what? That I believe that there's a soul. Okay, forget about my relationship with God for 1 second. Forget about my soul and where it's at right now for 1 second. But I'm getting married. I was single before, and I'm transitioning to being married now. And if I'm transitioning to being married now, that's a pretty big life change. So I better sit down and I better think about it. What is, like we said in part 1, what is my roadmap? Where do I want to go with my life and with my life partner, with my soulmate? What do I want my home to look like? Do I want my home to be a sanctuary? Do I want my home to be something that where God's presence can dwell in it? Oh! I think I do, because that really is going to give me a certain peacefulness in my life. It's going to make a certain shalom bayis, a certain peace in the home. But in order for me to do that, I need to realize what? I need to realize that I must be with my soulmate, my basheret. Because I just learned a minute ago that as good as I am, and as great as I am, and as put together as I think I have my life together, I'm really only operating at a maximum of 50%. I need my other soulmate, like we said with the watch, with the gears, to turn me where my spouse's strengths are my weaknesses, and where my strengths are my spouse's weaknesses. I need that other half to complete me, like Jerry Maguire, to make me full, to make me whole, so I could reach my full potential. I want to tell you, there's a story where there was a bunch of eagles that were traveling a distance, and one eagle, I don't know, had to lay an egg or whatever it is, right? Had to put an egg down. So while the flock is going, the eagle comes down, whatever it is, and the eagle puts an egg in the middle of a farm and then flies off to keep up with the rest of the flock. A couple hours pass, whatever it is, however long it takes for an eagle egg to hatch, and out comes baby eagle. And baby eagle looks around to the left, it looks to the right, and he's looking for his mother, he's looking for his friends. Where did I come from? I'm new in this world. And he looks to the right and he sees a cow. And he looks at the cow's feet, and he looks at the cow's body, he looks at his feet and his body, he says, I don't think I'm a cow. And he looks at the other side and he sees sheep. He looks at the fluffy wool coat, the coat of wool. He looks at the feet, he looks at himself, he says, I don't think I'm a sheep. He looks at the other side, he sees chickens. Aha. He looks at their feet, he looks at his feet. He looks at their feathers, he looks at his feathers. He looks at their beak, their nose, their mouth. He looks at it, he goes, I must be a chicken. So you know what this little eagle does? This little eagle grows up in the chicken coop over there. And he's learning just like a chicken to walk like a chicken and to cluck like a chicken and everything. He's pecking away at the food like he's a chicken. And he grows up his whole life thinking he's a chicken. And then a couple months pass, and the mother eagle, who sort of put the egg down in the beginning, is flying backwards now, back, and she stops back into the farm to pick up, little Sonny, little egg that now hatched. And she comes down, the big eagle, and she sees the little baby eagle, who's now grown, walking like a chicken and clucking like a chicken, and she says, what are you doing? And he goes, Bukik! And she goes, hello, you're an eagle. He says, I'm not an eagle, I'm a chicken. She says, I'm telling you, you're an eagle. He says, all my life I'm a chicken. Don't tell me I'm an eagle. She goes, listen to me. Listen, slow down. I want you to do something. I want you to go and run as fast as you can. And when I say now, I want you to stick your hands out. And you're going to see you're going to fly. And he says, I can't do that. I'm scared. I don't want to do that. I'm scared. He says, just trust me. So all of a sudden he starts running and running and running and running and running. And she goes, now! And he sticks his hand out and whoosh! The eagle flies up, the baby eagle flies up to the sky. And as he's soaring high in the clouds, and as the wind is, on his feathers and on his beak, the mother eagle comes and flies up right next to him, and she says to him, you see, I told you weren't a chicken. I told you were an eagle. I told you were an eagle. And, they lived happily ever after. The most unfortunate thing in life would be if a person goes ahead and they live their whole life thinking that they're a chicken when in reality they're an eagle. The most unfortunate thing in life would be if a person doesn't reach their potential in life, to be the most amazing person with capabilities and skills and everything that God gave them if they don't reach that potential. Now, how could that happen? Well, I just explained to you. The only way every person, myself included, can possibly reach their fullest potential is if they're with their soul partner, their basheret, that was hand-selected for them by God, actually. We're going to get to that in a minute. That was hand-selected for them before even they were born, because their souls were two pieces and they were torn apart. And they need their spouse by their side, their soulmate, to bring them together, to remind them that they're not chickens, and to bring them up to what? To be like an eagle in the sky. If a person goes ahead and they marry someone who's not Jewish, right? And later in the lecture we're going to talk about conversions and stuff like that. And then you have to understand that you're really not marrying your soulmate in the traditional way that it was taught that, that a soulmate is supposed to be. You may have found someone that you attracted. You may have found someone that you have fallen in love with. You may have found someone that you're compatible with, but that person cannot be your soulmate. It's totally impossible. I want to tell you something. It's an important example, another example that I think everyone needs to keep in their mind. Because everyone listening to this is older, is mature, is already in a stage of life where they're thinking about marriage, they're dating seriously. So I want to give you another example. Everyone should imagine, Sotheby's auction house, so to speak. And everyone knows how the auction houses goes. They take out an item, let's just say a piece of art or whatever it is, and they say, okay, who's going to buy? Okay, 1,000 here and 2,000 over here and 5,000. Do I hear 10,000? Going once, going twice. Okay, 25,000, 300,000. Okay, sold to the guy in the back for, $1 million. I want to tell you that at some point, okay, our Talmud, which is the oral Torah, right? God gave one Torah, that the Torah is in two parts. There's the written Torah, which is the Bible that we read in temple every week, where you can open up a drawer in a hotel and find the Bible. And he gave a oral Torah, which for years was orally given, from generation to generation to generation. But then we started to forget it, so we wrote it down. That's called the Talmud. The Talmud teaches us an amazing thing. The Talmud teaches us that 40 days before each of us was conceived, a heavenly voice came down and said, my name is Avi, right? Avi is going to marry, and they named my wife. My wife's name is Rena. Avi will marry Rena. This was before I was conceived. This was before my wife was conceived. The match was made in heaven by God. So listen to this. So how is it possible, if the match was made in heaven by God, how is it possible that I had all these other relationships, or that we all have all these other relationships, where I fell in love here and in high school, and I fell in love in college, and oh, did I fall in love right after college, and oh, and I had another girlfriend over here, a boyfriend over here, that was such a great relationship, and I've had all of these numerous relationships as I finally found my soulmate. How is that possible? So let's bring us back to Sotheby's. So you know what happens 40 days before you were conceived in the heavens? God took your soul, right? And let's say, I'm going to use me as an example. He took my soul and he put me on the Sotheby, auction. And he says, okay, coming up now over here, we have the soul of Avi Leibovic, and one day he's going to be 5'10", and he's going to have green eyes, and he'll have hair at one point in his life, but then he's going to lose his hair. He's not going to have any more hair. And he's going to be a lawyer, and he's going to be a speaker, and he's going to do all these things. Let's start the bidding. Who's bidding? And who are the bidders? The bidders are the angels for all the other female souls that are out there. So if one person bids on me, and then another angel bids on me, and then another angel bids on me, and then another angel bids on me, you know who all of those other angels are that are bidding on me? Those are, let's say, the angels for, let's just say, previous girlfriends or previous relationships that I might have had. Meaning there was a potential that they almost bought me. We dated for a year. We dated for 6 months. We went on one date. Those are all the people who bid. But who was the winner of the auction? Who was the one whose angel bid, so to speak, the highest price and ended up with me? That was my wife, my soulmate. And at that, they say, going once, going twice, 3 times, I decree 40 days before conception that Avi is going to marry Rena. That angel won the auction. That's what it is. So you're saying to yourself, sitting at home now, okay, let me get this straight. I'm dating a non-Jew. I'm really in love. Let's say maybe we've been living together for I don't know how many years, right? Whatever it is. You're telling me that that relationship, which I feel so strongly in my heart that I love this person and it's so compatible and everything is perfect and the attraction, everything is there. You're telling me that this person cannot be my soulmate? I'm telling you, if you believe in God and you believe that you have a soul, this person cannot be your soulmate. It could be that this person's angel in heaven bid on you. It could be that this person's angel in heaven bid on you a high price and almost ended up getting you. But if you're Jewish, right, then the only person who could have ended up with you would have been another Jewish soul. And this person that you're dating now, that you're so in love with, is just a bidder at the auction. You have to go through that process. You have to even maybe at some point break up or whatever it is, if that's what it takes, until you come to your soulmate who won the auction. At some point, it's possible, we're going to talk about it towards the end, it's possible that maybe the person you're dating potentially can convert, in which case they might have won the bid. And that is a possibility if they go through an orthodox and an appropriate conversion with a rabbi, but we're going to talk about that a little bit sooner, a little bit later. So we said a moment ago, we were talking about an auction, and who is going to be the winning bidder is going to be your soulmate. So I want to tell you something. I want to give you something. I want to share with you something that's very special. When a person attends a Jewish wedding, at the end of the ceremonies of the Jewish wedding, before they break the glass, everyone knows how they break the glass to commemorate the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, there's 7 blessings that are said. Those are called, for those people who speak Hebrew, it's called Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings. And every blessing is very special, and maybe on another tape we'll take some time to explore all those 7 blessings and the significance and the meaning of all of them. But I want to tell you about one blessing. I'm going to read it first in Hebrew, in Ivrit, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to translate it. And it's a special blessing that applies directly kind of to this topic. The 5th blessing of the 7 blessings says, Sameach tesamach ra'im ahuvim, kesamechecha yetzircha began eden mikedem, baruch ato Hashem, mesamech chatan bekala. So how does that translate into? Grant perfect joy to these loving companions. Right? Grant perfect joy to these loving companions. And here comes the essence part. Just as you did to the creations in the Garden of Eden. Blessed are you, Lord, who grants joy to the bride and the groom and the bride. So I want to emphasize that part. Make them as happy as you were, as happy as they were, as you did your creations in Gan Eden, right? In the Garden of Eden. So who was in the Garden of Eden? So if everyone knows the story of the Bible, the first book of the 5 books of the Torah, Bereshit, the Genesis, we know that Adam and Eve were the 2 people who were in the Garden of Eden. The 5th blessing says that this bride and this groom at this ceremony here should be as happy as Adam and Eve were. What does that mean, as happy as Adam and Eve were? So I'm going to tell you, and listen to this. This is an amazing thing. You know, we walk around, you know, our cities that we live in, Manhattan, Los Angeles, Chicago, Atlanta, Florida, wherever it is, Tel Aviv, Israel, whatever the community you're from. And a person, you know, has big eyes. If you're a woman, you see a lot of eligible men. And if you're a man, you see a lot of eligible women. And you say to yourself, even though you fell in love, and even though you have someone who makes you happy, you say, ooh, look at that one. Maybe that one is going to make me happier. Or, ooh, look at that one. Maybe that one is funnier. Or, ooh, look at that one, has more money. Or, ooh, look at that one, this one is more attractive. And you always say to yourself as you go through life, many people say to themselves, you know, maybe I'm not totally happy with who I'm with. Maybe, right, there's someone else out there for me who's going to make me happier. So we have this blessing at the ceremony, and the blessing says, on the 5th blessing, bride and groom, God, you should make them as happy as Adam and Eve were. So what does that mean, make them as happy as Adam and Eve were? So think about it. When Adam was there in the Garden of Eden, and he's walking around the Garden of Eden over there, how many possible women could he have met? Only one, Eve. She was perfect for him. There was no one else for him to pick. And as Eve was walking around over there, how many people could she have met? Only one, Adam. There was no one else who could have possibly been available to her. So when they say you should make the bride and groom as happy as Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, what you're saying is, as you go through life with your soulmate, as you go through life with your basheret, who's on the mission to help your home be a certain way, who's on a mission to help complete you in a certain way, you have to understand that at some point, your spouse, your life partner, ideally, should make you as happy as Adam or Eve was in the Garden of Eden. If you're not married to someone who's Jewish, that's going to be very difficult to do, because you're always going to have a spiritual lacking internally inside of who you are. You're always going to have a spiritual piece of you that's craving more, because your spouse is not able to provide your soul, which is in your body, so it's still a part and parcel of who you are, is not able to provide you with that spiritual nourishment. I always thought that was a great idea. But I want to go further, and we're going to be a little bit harder for a moment now over here. You know, there's two Jewish holidays that maybe some of you have heard about. One is called the holiday of Purim, right, which occurs around March time every year. Some people know that because that's the holiday, you know, it's not the same as Halloween. It's nothing like Halloween, but people compare it to Halloween because on Halloween people get dressed up, and on Purim people get dressed up too. The story of Purim, which is a very long story, which took place in Persia, right, basically had to do with the fact that the Persian king at that time had a lottery, and he picked the day where he was going to totally massacre the Jews. He was going to kill them all. It was going to be a physical destruction of the Jews. And through a series of events and through a series of miracles, the Jews were able to live and avoid this physical massacre. That's holiday number one, Purim. Holiday number two is Hanukkah, right? Everyone knows the Adam Sandler song, you know, Happy Hanukkah, right? So, what's the holiday of Hanukkah? The holiday of Hanukkah is when the Greeks, many, many years ago, invaded the Jewish temple in Jerusalem, and they totally defiled it, and they destroyed it, and they destroyed everything they could. And the Jews, under the leadership of the great military leader and wise sage Matisyahu, they went ahead and they conquered the temple, and they regained it back to find only one jar of oil that lasted for 8 days. That's the holiday of Hanukkah. Now, how is Hanukkah different than Purim? Purim, like we said, they wanted to massacre the Jews. They wanted to kill every one of them with swords and chop their heads off and be done with them. Hanukkah, on the other hand, they didn't want to kill anyone, the Greeks. You know what they wanted? All they wanted from the Jews was that they should blend in. They should assimilate. They should adopt their customs. They should adopt everything in the Greek culture. It wasn't a physical Holocaust, it was a spiritual Holocaust. Now I want you to think about this a minute, because you're about, maybe as you're listening to this tape, you're beginning to think a little bit about your relationship with your girlfriend or boyfriend, the person who you want to share your life with, and you're saying, maybe I should go ahead and I should marry this person, but this person is not from the the person's not Jewish. So I want to tell you something. To marry a non-Jew is as if you're succeeding where the Greeks and where the Persians failed. Why? Because on a spiritual level, just like the Greeks who didn't want to kill the Jews but they wanted you to blend in, if you marry a non-Jew, you are spiritually killing yourself, because you will never be aligned with your life partner who's just simply not Jewish. Your goals are different, their goals are not different. You want to have a Jewish lifestyle, they just have no relation to it. They're from another religion. Why should they want to have a relationship with it? They may be respectful, but they're going to go ahead and they're not going to have any relationship with it. So it's a spiritual killing. But how is it also a physical killing? Because in the case where it's a Jewish man marrying a non-Jewish girl, you have to understand that you're not just separating yourself spiritually, but your children from the non-Jewish spouse, or the non-Jewish mother, is not going to be Jewish at all. So you've now completed not just a spiritual killing of Hanukkah, you've created a physical killing of your unborn child, because that person can never be Jewish. It's a tremendous idea. So you have to think very hard, very slow, and very carefully about how important is Judaism for me? Am I ready to go ahead and create, so to speak, a spiritual Holocaust? Am I ready to go ahead and create, so to speak, a physical Holocaust? I heard one story once, and we're almost done, but the next couple minutes are important. I heard once a story, or an analogy. We all know what the Nazis did. We all know what the Nazis did. They went into Europe and they went ahead and they massacred all the Jews over there. And we all know that they loaded them onto cattle cars and they took them on transports, they took them to Auschwitz and other death camps. Could you imagine if we were there at that time and somehow, some way, we had the ability to pull a person off of the transport? For every person that we pull off the transport, You literally saved their life and you saved their generations of lives because you knew that that transport was headed towards a death camp. On a different level, not as severe, and not on a physical Holocaust level, but on a spiritual Holocaust level, for every person who is about to walk down the aisle and who's about to marry a non-Jew, it's almost as if they are walking on a transport headed towards a spiritual destruction. And if by listening to this tape, or if by going to your friend who's considering getting married to a non-Jew, you tell them, I'm telling you, you have a soul. I'm telling you that this is not the way. I'm telling you that this is not your life partner. You can never ever be compatible because God, 40 days before you were conceived, He went ahead and what? He put you together. This cannot be the person that you think you love or that you think is your soulmate. And if you prevent that person from doing it, or if you are able to prevent yourself from doing it, you know what you're doing? You're taking yourself off a transport to a spiritual and potentially even physical Holocaust, because I said physical again because your children won't be Jewish, your unborn children. You need to think about that. I know it's sharp, and I know that up until now I've been very soft. So let's end with something very soft over here. Many people have heard about a famous Russian refusenik whose name is Natan Sharansky. Natan Sharansky is a famous personality now in Israel who is now a politician involved in politics. But everyone needs to know at some point that he was a very big Russian activist, okay? And he was imprisoned for 13 years in 1977, quote unquote, for spying for the United States. They actually arrested him the day before he was going to get married. He was about to get married to his wife Avital. They arrested him for 13 years for spying for the United States, and it was a big scam trial. Now, he got lucky. For 13 years, they sent him to a Siberian gulag, right? To a Siberian work camp. Primarily an isolated confinement over there, solitary confinement, only to come out to work a little bit. And he was only released, instead of 13 years, he was released 9 years in 1986 by Mikhail Gorbachev under the pressure from President Ronald Reagan. And they went to Natan Sharansky and they said to him, all those years that you were in the gulag, all those years that you were there in solitary confinement, how did you not go insane? How did you not lose hope? How did you not go ahead and, just want to end it all? And he says, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something. He goes, before I got arrested in 1977, there was a singer called Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, who's not alive anymore. And Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach wrote a song in 1965. Remember, he was arrested in 77. He wrote a song in 1965 called Am Yisrael Chai. Right? Am Yisrael Chai, which translates into the nation of Israel lives. Some of you know this song. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Right? The nation of Israel, nation of Israel, nation of Israel lives. The nation of Israel, nation of Israel, nation of Israel lives. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. He said, you know what I did every day when I was in jail? You know what I did to keep my sanity so I didn't lose it all? He goes, I sang that song of Am Yisrael Chai, that the Jewish nation should live, that I may be in prison, and you may put my physical body into a prison, but my spiritual body, who I am, the bars would disappear, they would be free, I would be able to go out. Now that's a very powerful story. That's how he kept his sanity, because he understood the essence of a Jew. He understood the essence of a soul. He understood the essence of a nation. He understood how important it was to maintain his Jewish identity. And yet here we are in 2013, and we're ready to take our soul, we're ready to take our Jewish identity, and we're ready to take everything that's important in this world, and we're ready to throw it away because we fell in love, because we have a spouse who we think is our life partner. It's simply something that a person needs to say to themselves over and over again. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. You have to remind yourself how, and you may not realize this, you have to remind yourself how important and how special and how prestigious and how dignified and how magnificent it is to be a Jew. That you were picked to be a Jew. Imagine you go to a diamond district and you want to buy a ring. You're a groom and you want to buy a ring for your bride. And you go to the diamond district and you say to the jeweler, show me some rings, show me some rings. And he spreads out a whole bunch of rings on the table, 25 rings. And one has a cut like this, and one has a cut like that, and one has a sparkle like this, and a twinkle like that. And you look at all those rings. But only one ring catches your eye, and you say, you know what? That's the ring I want. That's the one that's sparkling in my eye. I want that ring. You know what God did? God went to the 70 nations of the world and he spread them all out. And he said, you know what? That people over there, the nation of Israel, that's the one that I want. That's the one that's twinkling in my eye. And we forget that in 2013. We forget that Asher bachar banu mikol amim, that we were chosen from all the nations, that Hashem picked us because we've blended in. We think that we're chickens and we forget that we're eagles. And you're ready to go ahead and you're ready as an eagle, you're ready to marry a chicken for the rest of your life because you don't understand who you are. So what do we do? So let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up. If you're a person that is thinking of marrying a non-Jew, I want you to ask 10 questions to yourself. 10 questions, okay? And these are all things that we discussed. Number one, I want you to ask yourself, and you can take a piece of paper and pause the video at any time to kind of put these paper questions down and then to do the analysis. And you should do the analysis when your phone is off and when you're undisturbed in a room and you're not going to be interrupted, where you can really tune into your life and what you want in life. Question number one is, like we started, do I believe in God? I didn't ask what your relationship with God, just do I believe in God? Question number two, if I do believe in God, then I believe that I have a soul, right? Confirmation. Do I have a soul? Okay. Number three, if I have a soul, then I must have a soulmate. I must have a soulmate. Number four, is the person that I'm dating, based on everything we spoke about, really my soulmate? I know I'm attracted, I know I'm in love, and I know I feel good when I'm around them, but is this the person, when I say soulmate, my basher, is this the person that 40 days before I was conceived, that God said that we're going to be together? Is this really my soulmate? Number five, if she is my soulmate, and she's going to be my life partner, is she ready to convert for me? Now, I said before we were going to talk about conversions. I think maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that for another video. But I would just say in terms of conversions that a conversion done under the proper rabbinical supervision is perfectly a-okay. It's something that takes a long time. It's a long process. It's not something that you can go online and give a credit card to and be done within a few minutes. It's something that takes months and months, if not years, of preparation and study in order to do that. But if that's done, then fine. So number five, if this is my life partner, is she ready to convert for me? Number six, if she's not really ready to convert for me, then how will I ever reach my potential in life? Because again, I'm looking for my second half of my soul. So if she's not ready to convert for me, how will I reach my potential in life? Number seven, in my heart, when I close my eyes, even if I don't attend temple every day, even if I don't pray every day, even if I don't do all the commandments, do I believe in this concept of Am Yisrael Chai? Do I believe in this concept of that the nation of Israel should live? That I see something special, something unique, something magnificent about the nation of Israel. Number eight, if I'm going to imagine myself on an Auschwitz cattle car, and I know that that's severe, on an Auschwitz cattle car platform, am I going to let myself be spiritually killed? Because I'm ultimately going to end up with someone who's going to take me down a path where spiritually I will never be fulfilled. I will never be compatible. It is impossible. Impossible. Number nine, if everything I've went through that analysis, do I need to talk to someone? Is there a rabbi? Is there a friend? Is there someone I can reach out to? I'm sure at the bottom of the webpage over here, you can certainly reach out to the Noach Heights organization, and they will help you meet up with someone over there. Is there someone I can talk to? And number 10, finally, do I really need to educate myself a little bit more about my own religion? Because I think once you do educate yourself about your own religion, you're going to be amazed at what you discover about yourself. So I encourage you to review again the last few minutes and those last 10 steps. I want to give a blessing to every person listening over here, that you have the wisdom, that you have the insight, and that you have the understanding and the clarity to able to work through these decisions and these questions. This is a very, very big moment in your life, and it's a very, very big turning point in your life. And I can't relay to you enough through the World Wide Web, because I can just send video stream, but I can't relay to you enough how special it is to be Jewish, how precious it is to be Jewish, how we've had years of pogroms and years of Nazi people trying to kill us and years of inquisitions and all of these things, link after link after link after link after link, that brought us to right here, right now, 2013, right? Should we be the ones who are going to go ahead and break that link? I give a blessing to all of you that you should live a happy life. And if you need any follow-up help, please reach out again for information, for one-on-one talks to the Noach Heights organization. Thank you very much for your time and all the best. Have a great night.